Well, yesterday Apple released 3 new models of their iPhone. The first time I've ever seen them release 3 new models of an iPhone. And so today we got to talk about how are those iPhones going to sell? What does this mean for Apple's stock price in the end? What does this mean for Apple suppliers? Because we got to remember, Apple doesn't just affect Apple stock. So let's say you own Apple stock either through your 401k or maybe you own it directly. You could say, well, these iPhones are going to affect Apple stock in a big way, right? Absolutely. But Apple doesn't just affect themselves, okay? They affect the entire semiconductor supply chain out there, all right? And a ton of people, including myself, own semiconductor stocks. So Apple is a very important company across many, many industries. And depending on how iPhone sales go, a lot of times it depends on how the stock market goes because Apple has such a big weight on the markets, all right? So let's look at this, all right? Let's start at the very high end, all right? Their highest end iPhone now is starting at nearly $1,100. That is up $100, all right? Basically, their old highest end phone was the iPhone 10. That started at $999. So now ASPs are gonna rise for the people that want the highest end iPhone out there, all right? Which is obviously a very good thing for Apple because half that money ends up just pretty much going to the bottom line at the end of the day. The massive difference is now the number 2 iPhone, okay? The number, I guess you could say, the second most expensive iPhone is now $999 versus the second most expensive iPhone before this past year was $799. So that's a $200 rise in ASP there if you want to get the second best iPhone. The old second best iPhone going into this year was the iPhone 8 Plus, all right? The iPhone 8 Plus started at $799. So we are talking about 2 pretty big ASP rises here for people that want the highest end iPhones out there, all right? So that's definitely exciting. You're going to see ASPs rise. You're going to see profits rise for those iPhones. But that's not really the biggest part of this, okay? That's not the biggest part in my opinion. This phone, the $749 phone, which is called the iPhone XR, this, in my opinion, will be Apple's first time ever having a true success in a budget phone, okay? They have never had a success in a budget phone in the past, all right? And you could say the only time they really attempted it was when they released the iPhone 5C, which I think was 2000, I want to say that was either 2013, 2014, somewhere around there. I think it was 2013 fall. They released what was called the iPhone 5C. iPhone 5C, no one was excited about that phone. Let's just be honest, okay? The iPhone XR is a phone that I see a lot of people very excited about. Myself, I'm excited about the phone. I think they just hit it as far as a price point and the specs, which I think are big. You have to hit it as far as a price point and the specs. So you're looking at an iPhone that you can get for a considerable cheaper amount than you can get for the high-end iPhones, all right? But this is also an iPhone that I think the specs are really good on this, okay? We're talking about a 6.1-inch display. We're talking about it has the best Apple chip they have. It has the A12 chip. So you're getting basically, a very similar device to these 2 iPhones, just without a dual camera, which most people don't need a dual camera. Like the camera on this is going to be amazing. Like you don't really need a dual camera. And basically these you get an OLED display versus an LCD display, okay? So in my opinion, this will be the first time in Apple's history of a company they will succeed with a lower priced iPhone. Usually it's just like, whatever is the highest end iPhone, that's what people go and get, all right? And these phones will continue to do well because there's always a certain segment of the population out there that want the latest and greatest iPhone, okay? That's just the way it is. Same thing, some people are big Samsung, fans and whatnot, and they always want the best Samsung phone. They'll get it every single year no matter what. It's the same exact deal with the iPhone. So these will, still do well for, by Apple standards, but in my opinion, this will actually be the top selling iPhone. This is going to be the iPhone, in my personal opinion, that will make people who don't just have a dying iPhone out there, because we know there's a certain segment of the population that, their iPhones are just getting old, right? They might still be on a 5S or a 5C or maybe an iPhone 6 or something like that, and their iPhones are dying, and so they have to upgrade, all right? There's always a certain segment of the population out there, but in my opinion, opinion, this is going to get people who have an iPhone that works perfectly fine say, that looks pretty interesting to me, okay? Rather than maybe I don't want to spend $1,000. Maybe a lot of people maybe just can't get to that price point yet in their heads where, wow, I got to pay $1,000 for a smartphone. But then you come in with this at $750, and you know, the specs are extremely impressive. It's going to have the A12 chip in it, which is going to blow every single smartphone away ever in history, okay? Wait till the benchmarks come out on that. It's just going to be a whole different level there, okay? So in my opinion, this is a big thing for Apple stock, okay? The fact that they can get a success on a phone that's not going to be the highest priced one. Now the big question is, will this be the next super cycle in iPhones, okay? The next thing that could propel Apple stock price in a massive way. We see unit growth of 20-30%, you know, like we've seen in past super cycles with iPhones. In my personal opinion, I don't think this will be a super cycle. I think this will be a really strong sales year. I think this will be a record number iPhone year, okay? I think they will hit record numbers of iPhones sold this upcoming year in 2019. More iPhones sold than ever before. But in terms of, do I see this necessarily being a super cycle? I don't, okay? And honestly, the only reason I see this being a year where unit volume will be up is honestly because of this iPhone. That's the only reason. If it was just these two, I wouldn't even see it. The next super cycle I see is actually going to be next year, because next year should be the year they come out with the 5G iPhone, okay? And that is going to be the thing that gets a lot of people very excited on the high end there. That's a massive difference when you go from 4G to 5G there. So in my opinion, this will not be a super cycle. I think if you're holding Apple shares, I think if you want a super cycle, I think you really got to wait for the 5G super cycle. However, there's nothing wrong with the fact that this should be a very strong year. This should be a record-breaking iPhone year. It's going to be just an unbelievable success in my opinion. It's just not going to be that type of year where it's like, oh, volumes are up 20-30% or something like that. So great news for Apple shareholders is services continues to be a beast and will continue to be a beast throughout 2019. You have still this company at a pretty fair PE. You have an iPhone cycle that I think will be an up cycle, okay? I think units will be up year over year. Maybe somewhere between, the worst case scenario, I could see something around a 3% unit rise in 2019. Best case scenario, maybe somewhere around a 10% unit cycle, but 10% doesn't constitute as a super cycle. And then you have a dividend increase, you have buybacks going on, you have still, I think, new Macs will come in October, so I think that's going to be a new thing. A lot of people like myself have been waiting for the new Macs to come out. I want a new MacBook Air. I don't like any of the models right now. I want something with better specs, better chips. I think that will be coming out. I think that's another thing to propel Apple's. You have a lot of things going for Apple's stock price. You know, I've been bullish on Apple since basically iPhone 7 came out and this was a $100 stock, which was ridiculous. It was ridiculous that this company was trading 2 years ago under $100 a share. Absolutely ridiculous. The only thing as ridiculous as that is Facebook's trading at 160 right now. Like, that's the only thing I can say that's comparable to that. So, you know, it's exciting time to be an Apple shareholder at the end of the day. Such a consistent company, such a great company, so well run. They just know how to do it, man. They just know how to get the job done each and every year, and I think they've got the job done once again. I would love to know your guys' opinion on Apple stock down there in that comment section. If you love keeping up with stock market news, make sure you follow me on Instagram. Post a lot of stock market news in my Instagram stories. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.